Good morning and welcome back to the channel, Grand Columbia, and welcome to another Coffee Time Live. And today I got a whole bunch of a mishmash of little tidbits, so maybe it'll be good. So I'm going to start off with minor disaster, but it's going to look good. Let's take a look at the weather. Okay, there's the weather. You see it's overcast, clouds are hanging. But it's clear. Now, this is a photo. And why a photo, you might ask? Well, photo because a weather cam, which is this one, shorted out. And I think that may be why the quality was really sketchy. I think it was interfering, and then it actually caught fire. And yeah, it was exciting moment trying to figure out what it was and scrambling. So that one's down for the count. Explains a lot why I was getting such a crappy picture, because that's what it should have looked like, and it was I don't know, it wasn't very clear. So there's that. And let's see, let's run through here. Woke up this morning to Jerry. Thank you. Appreciate it. And Juka, thank you very much. What a pleasant way to wake up. And you might notice the little emojis are actually coming up now. I'm trying a different software approach to this. And let's see, Libby, good morning from beautiful Manizales. Cold day again. I am in basement apartment. Did not go out yet. Do not have windows. Hope it's not raining again. I need to see places. She is visiting from Ecuador. A couple years ago, she visited in Armenia, and this time she went to Pineda. She's in Manizales. I'm not sure of her itinerary. But yeah, it does tend to rain whenever it feels like it, but it won't rain all day. So if you get a little rain, then you can go out later. It's one of the things that I tell people all the time, and I prefer here, is the rain is there's a little more of a schedule to it, and I kind of like that. Yuka, greetings from Finland. One of my little tidbits today will mention Finland, as a matter of fact. Stay tuned. And we've got, I can't even read that now. I clicked on it. It's a new software. As soon as I click on it, it kind of goes dark. Good morning from Agua Chica, Cesar. Okay. Chad, how you doing, Chad? Good morning from Austin. You've been traveling a bit lately, I believe. Steve, good morning from South Dakota. How you doing? Owen, sound video good. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Somebody mentioned that a lot of the things have sound that's not coordinated. So the volume level of the sound that I have on my microphone, right there, might be higher or lower than maybe a clip that I show or something else. And he said that it's really loud when one of these things go off. There. Those I don't really have control over. It's a third-party software thing. I looked into it and I couldn't really figure out how to do anything about that. Everything else, that pretty much falls to me. And there's a reason for it, but I try a little bit more to get them leveled to each other. Rob, morning from Fort Lauderdale. How you doing? Steve, we'll be in Armenia in June. Let's make those ribs. Sounds good. Juan, good morning from Miami Beach. How you doing? Coleman, hello from Dallas. I can finally catch it live. Well, you know, if you settle down a little bit, aren't you supposed to be retired? Jeff, good morning from Cincinnati. I'm still thrown off by this camera. I've got to put it back to where I'm used to it, where I can look at it right there, because I've got everything to the sides here. But yeah. Which streaming software are you using? Well, oh, go Reds. Okay. Well, the streaming software I use is OBS almost all of the time. But those little notifications, which I don't get to hear actually, that's why I run by them sometimes. But, well, all right. Black 007, thank you very much. I appreciate it. See, I would have missed that if I wasn't talking about it. But you guys get to see it. That is software. It's internet software. It's called Stream Elements, and it allows you to put, well, like the chat that's in the corner that stays up for a short period of time, and people really seem to like that. Of course, with this white background, and I can talk about that. It's not showing up very good. I'm not going to change. I could change the color of it. I'm not going to, because by the time we get around to next week, that should be different. Yeah, this white background, you would think I'd be moved. I am not moved. I'm still, there's so much. I've accumulated too much. I guess we do that. I mean, I came with 2 suitcases. And now I've got way too much, and you really know it when you start unpacking. But somebody else packed my boxes for me, and it's very inefficient trying to figure out what goes where, and there's a lot of running back and forth, and I'm still up to my ears in things that need to be put away. And I work on this for a little bit, but then I get back to the piles of stuff. Yeah, it's time to trim back. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I could put a green screen background. I did that for a while. It tends to be a little problematic because none of them are perfect. And, I don't like the edges kind of get chewed up. Even parts of this hat might disappear. I've got my things that I can put up, but I don't know. I can paint the background. I can put up a background and leave it all the time. I don't know. I'm open to ideas. Texas Tater, howdy from Texas. That's quite the name. And William, how you doing? Good morning. Haven't seen you in a while. Glad to see you here. Okay. Well, Chad, you should put a neon sign in the background like Joe Rogan. It's funny you say that. I was seriously thinking about doing that because they make you handcrafters here for everything, including neon signs. And I don't recall offhand, but I looked into this a while back, and they're quite cheap. I mean, like I could get a neon sign for maybe $25. And so that's a thought, but it wouldn't change this chat thing right there. But I could change those letters from white to black. Well, that wouldn't work on the shirt. Make them all yellow. I don't know. We'll see. Use a green screen, then wear a green scarf. Yeah, that'll work. Why is the peso cold stalled at 45? I think true value in relation to other currencies of 5,000. Well, the value is what it is, actually. It's, I got some topics, so we'll get to the questions later. But on this one, it's always going to go up and down, and it kind of seems like it's stalled there, but It will go up, it will go down. It's always done that. And it's a fool's game to try to predict it. It just doesn't seem to work. I mean, I used to watch it daily, but there's the rhyme or reason that I thought would apply never seems to actually apply. It's 4,600 now. Okay, I mentioned that we're going to, I will mention Finland. I mentioned that I would mention Finland. So this is how I'm going to mention it. People have this weird idea that Colombia is a small country. And it's actually not a small country. It's in the scheme of things, it's up there in size of countries. Now it's not Russia or China or the United States. But then there's a whole lot of countries after those that Colombia can compete with. So I wanted to give you an idea of the size. This came up from, as most things, from a message that I got. And it's saying that there's so many types of landscapes packed into such a tiny country. And it's not so tiny. The first one, we'll compare it to Finland. So you can see that it covers Norway, Sweden, Finland. It runs into Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. It's pretty good size. Now we'll compare it in Europe. This is mostly overlaid on France. So it covers France, but it cuts over half of England, cuts a big chunk out of Germany, goes into Spain. And comparing to Spain, it's actually almost double the size of Spain. And compared to the USA, got this overlay on the West Coast. Take a look at that. It covers almost, well, actually, if you slit it down a little, it covers all of California, goes into Nevada, up into Oregon, Washington State. It's not small. It's a big country. Now, I had something weird. This may not be weird to you. You may think that, well, that's what happens. But I'd unpacked some boxes and I just kind of sat down and it was 2 in the afternoon a few days ago. And I look out and on my railing is this pigeon sitting there. And took a photo. There's this guy. So I got back up and walking around, putting more things away and trying to organize things. And a couple hours go by and I come back and he's still sitting there. So I actually went out on the balcony. I was thinking about shooing him away because I didn't want him pooping on my balcony. But I didn't bother him. But I got, I don't know, probably 6 inches away from him. And he didn't move. He turned and looked at me, but didn't move. And I was awake about 1 o'clock in the morning. He was still there. The next day, the sun came up. It was around 6 or whatever, 6:30. That's when I took this picture. The camera lightened it up a little bit. It was kind of darker. So this was 6:30 in the morning, and it was shortly after that he finally flew away. I mean, he didn't budge. He was right there. He didn't even move back and forth. He was just camped out for, I think, a really long period of time. I thought it was very strange, but it was kind of cool. You know, new friend, move in. Sam and Peg, morning. All right, where is that? There we go. Steve, appreciate my input. 3 minutes went by. I don't even know what I put an input on. Oh, that might have been on the peso, maybe? Okay. I get sent things all the time. I was sent a new warning from the State Department. And let's see, we got it here. Robert, good morning. State Department urges travelers to reconsider visiting Jamaica and Colombia. And I went and looked at what they wrote, and it's no different than it was before when I addressed this last time, which maybe was a year ago. It was some time ago, about the warning for Colombia. And they give a general warning about kidnappings and murders and all kinds of stuff that sounds terrible. And they warn you about going to Colombia. Well, in this newest published thing from the State Department, the wording is actually no different than it ever was. So it's not new. It's the same one that they run all the time. And this is why it's a bunch of crap. And you have to, if you go to some of the most dangerous parts of Colombia, which you would have no reason to go there because there's nothing worth going for, along the Venezuelan border, southwest of Cali, and down along the border of Ecuador and Colombia. Not Ipiales, not where the main thoroughfare goes, but out into the boonies there. There's a little part of the Amazon. Places that people don't go. Those are dangerous areas. And you have these criminals that hang out in those areas because they're safer there. It's easy to hide, think Robin Hood, except they're not Robin Hoods, they're just criminals. They're hard to find. They're just kind of out of the way. And they're dangerous areas. That's not to say that there isn't crime, but I laughed about that because, well, if I were coming up with a Lawrence State Department of warnings, I could warn about don't go to the United States. But it would be more accurate if I said there's some places in Baltimore you shouldn't go. There's some places in Chicago you shouldn't go. There's places in LA you shouldn't go, as an example. But you got all kinds of places that you can go where you won't be bothered with any of that stuff. And that's how it applies here in Colombia. There's places you shouldn't go, and you have no reason. You got no business going there. But if you want to visit Armenia or Manizales or Bucaramanga, some of my favorite places, you're fine. You're fine. Now, there's crime everywhere. It's just that the crime rate, like here in Armenia, is practically non-existent unless you're involved in crime yourself and you're in one of the 4 barrios that I mentioned. It's like you have no business going to those barrios. There's nothing there for you. And it's just some criminals that do crime mostly on each other. But if you're, I live in the north, and in the north, none of that stuff exists. So you have to know what people are talking about. But the State Department, they put out this blanket statement about if you go to Colombia, you're going to get kidnapped, or you've got a high chance of getting kidnapped. Or I don't even remember the last time somebody from the U.S. got kidnapped in Colombia. I mean, that goes back like 20 some years. It was great in movies and action shows, things like that. Back in the day, there was one. It was all about kidnapping. It was a very popular movie, and I don't remember the name of it now. But yeah, back in the day, those things did happen. Back when I lived here before, it was not uncommon. But it's not the way it is. It's just not that way now. So, you have that to think about. we hit a bit of a milestone. This was kind of a big one. You know, I was laughing when I get these certificates sent to me every so often, telling me about these milestones that I hit. And here I am going 2 years now, stuck at 4,000 subscribers. You know, I watch them as soon as somebody subscribes. I'll get 2 that get canceled by YouTube. But a 4,000 subscriber channel doesn't usually get things like this one. And if you stop and think about this, I had to wrap my mind around it. Big numbers don't seem like that big, but until you really think about it, I hit the 100,000 hour watched. So of all the videos that I have, people have watched 100, well, now over 100,000 hours. So if it's a 10-minute video and they skip the first 2 minutes, that's 8 minutes. And people tend to click, you know, as I'm exiting the video, they tend to click off. And so very few people actually watch cover to cover. They'll watch the meat of the video. That's as I thought about it, that's really a huge number. And you know, so YouTube can throttle my subscribers all they want because you know it's their call; they get to do it. But these other stats just keep on marching on. I looked up and I found a lot of channels that were well over 20,000 subs that were working on reaching that number. So that sounds about right. What I probably would have gathered over the last 2 years. Let's see, Robert, I mentioned that. Good morning. Mike Carroll, any more word in media there of a plane crash, kids surviving in the jungle? I don't know anything about that. I'll have to look that up. I've been really busy dealing with my own stuff. I got a lot to do, and so I'm trying to get all this packed and put away and set up so that I can get back to my normal life. Buenos dias de Bagué. Good morning. Yeah, I'll be curious to see what that's about. I don't know anything about it. Okay, about a half a block from this building that I moved into, it's something called the Oro Negro Mall. And it's not really a mall, as you would think of it. Think of it more of a expanded food court. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Cachique Mall in the adult food court in Cachique Mall in Bucaramanga, where you got bars and things like that, along with, you know, food places. And hold on. Didn't know if I was going to start choking. I got a tickle. About a half a block from me is this place called Oro Negro Mall, Black Gold Mall. And it's like an adult food court, but it's almost like a little complex. And I'm going to show you a video. I believe I can talk while this is playing. I'm going to give it a shot here. Yeah, I can talk while this is playing. Right there is a cool breakfast place, and they've got amazing orange juice. This is a supermarket, what is it? La Cima. It's actually based out of Venezuela. That was a shock to me. Here on the right, there's a hotel they're building. Just walk by it. The second floor is a steakhouse, and the first floor, it's a place, Passion de Carne or something like that. But you've got a round bar there. You've got artisanal coffee back there. You've got sushi, pizza on the second floor there, that arista, that's seafood. I'll mention it. Well, that place I'll mention when we come back. Yeah, Passion. What is it? Passion de la Carne. Um, I need to walk a little faster. Get down there. There's a big bar in the back. We'll be going by that also. There's an ice cream place. Come on, walk a little faster. Bogota Pizza. There's my building down there. See how close it is. There's a gym in that section. There's an underground parking garage, although there's front parking. Here is a barber shop. Well, that's pretty cool. And there's a couple money exchange places. Here is a beauty salon. Doesn't work for everybody. Certainly wouldn't work for me. I hate that red color hair. I hate it. Back there is a pharmacy. So that's pretty convenient. Let's see. Here's a really long bar, but behind the bar, you got a crap load of pool tables. They weren't open. They were preparing to open, so he's uncovering the pool tables back there. The place, there's a couple that are open during lunch, but it's mostly a night place, so 5 to 6 o'clock on is when things open up. Yeah, that's the seafood restaurant up above. That's where the entrance is. You've got on the left there little sidewalk stands indoors for chorizos. There's crepe, a couple of video machines in the back. Come on, move. I got wings. Forget what that one was. And surprise of all surprise, my favorite taco guy that some of you know about, that I was addicted to, and I kind of lost track of him as I was moving around. He had a place near Puerto Condillo, but it was never open. He moved here. This is his place, this taco place right here. So I have to go down at night. I was here with a friend, and we just grabbed your usual almuerzo. It costs, this one was, I think, about 15,000 pesos for each of us. It was pretty good size. I couldn't eat it all. It's why I love Armenia so much. When they found out I'm from America, they become my best friend. They want to talk and welcome me. It's the friendliest place I've ever been. Yeah, and if people that are in Medellin, they see that as, oh, they're buddying up with you just because they want to get something. And in Medellin, that's more often than not true. But here, while it can happen, that's rarely the actual motivation. People are just really friendly here. And if you notice, written in the sidewalks, the city's slogan, which was not given by the city itself, it was given by tourists. It's called Amable, friendly. It's a friendly city. It's known throughout Colombia as being like the friendliest place, and I found that to be true. Juan, ¿dónde está? Yo vivo en Ibagué. Okay, let's clear that. And I think I got one more thing to discuss. Came up last week. What stratus am I in? And I said, I didn't know. I hadn't really thought about it. I've always been basically in 5, stratus 5. And I didn't know. And then somebody got on here, and what's his Ben Lake is his alias. And he said he had a utility bill that says 4 Medio. And for Medio, I don't know. I don't know what to say. So of course, you know, after the video, I start looking into it, and I get the utility here. It just came, and I'm looking at it, and it says for Medio. So I go back and I look up the information on it, and the Medio, it just means middle, as in middle class. And then you got upper middle, and then you got Richie Rich, and it's like that. So then there's lower middle. So 4 is solidly in middle class. So the Stratus is actually just 4. So why is it 4? This is particularly the Matisse building next door. That place is like, it's like the Taj Mahal. I mean, it's amazing. This is a very cool building. They're good size apartments, good amenities, a lot of nice things. One next door, it's like, it blew me away. I mean, if there was a Stratus 7, it would be a Stratus 7. I would have moved in there, except I told you I couldn't, what was available at the time, the floor plans that were available wouldn't work out. There you have floor plans that I would have loved to have gotten, but alas. But anyway, so we got this gorgeous building, and it's Stratus 4. How does that happen? So we were chatting back and forth. He goes, well, maybe the owner's got an in. I said, well, maybe. I don't really think that kind of stuff happens, but it could be. I don't know. So I go back and I look up. So I've got it written out here. I sent it to the guy, my neighbor, and in writing, so it wasn't in Spanish. So in order to decide which stratus a home belongs to, the government limits itself to evaluating the facade, the materials with which the roof is built, and the conditions of the road in front of the home. Now, that includes, it's not that simple, but basically what they're saying is, what is the quality of the place itself, and where is it located? And that's why I was able to go for those couple hours driving around the city, and Rob was with me, and I could say, okay, that's Stratus 3, that's Stratus 2, and I could hit it right, because you just kind of get a sense after a while of the kind of buildings and where you are. And so looking at that, I'm on the main highway coming into Armenia. I'm at the north end of Armenia, and it's there's not a lot of ghettos or, you know, low end stuff here. So I'm thinking, man, it should be 5, maybe even 6, right? Well, then there's a second part that apparently I've never even read before. It makes perfect sense. I guess I never really paid enough attention to it. And some of you have, you know, you want more detail on this stuff. And I did notice my utilities are lower here. In addition, the government considers a proximity to health service, education services, and job opportunities, and the stratus is determined 1 to 6 scale, with 6 being the highest. So you could have a Stratus 6, but if it's further away from a hospital, if it's further away from schools, if you don't have a lot of employment, and we're talking a matter of a kilometer or 2. We're not talking like a real far distance. Excuse me. But no. You could take a Stratus 6 and drop it down to a Stratus 4. And so these are like, okay, you set the Stratus based on the location in the building, and then you start deducting for, well, how far is it from the hospital? Well, you're more than 20 blocks. Okay, as an example. Well, then you start, okay, that's a deduction. Maybe you're more than 30 blocks. Maybe that's a greater deduction. And so it works like that. And I was never aware, you know, you live and learn. I was never aware that the Stratus had the deductions to counteract it. But I guess I never gave it a lot of thought, because it makes perfect sense. So the upside is I get to live. I mean, you guys see what I'm surrounded by. My apartment takes up the front and side of I've got a balcony on each side, and I get scenery like that. And this is the crowded, crowded scenery. When the clouds are gone, you got all kinds of the screen would be filled up to the top there with mountain. And on the other side, it's mostly just mountain. There's one building really. So I get that, but then I'm right next to a supermarket and a big breakfast place with killer orange juice and a adult food court with several bars and pool tables and video machines and a pretty wide assortment of sushi and tacos, and you got all this stuff going on, barber shop and beauty salon, pharmacy, and all that within a couple minutes walk, and you get to be Stratus 4. I mean, it almost doesn't seem right, but I mean, I'm not going to complain. It's pretty awesome. Okay, I think that's all the tidbits I had. Yeah, I talked about him, and I mentioned Finland. Yeah, and let's see, was there anything else? That's it. And so, oh, and we went over half an hour. How about this? Time to start asking your questions. Remember, 4 question marks first, then ask the question. Now, I would like you to ask me some questions because now I want to try this new software out. It's very interesting. It looks like if you were to go on YouTube and look at the live chat, you got that box and people enter in. It's identical. As a matter of fact, it's an add-in to that. But when I click on what somebody says, it instantly grays out. So if I go back here to Mike Carroll, I can barely make it out. I can turn it back on, but once I click on it, it turns gray and there's no going back. Well, the upside is that tells you pretty clearly, did you miss anybody? And I go back here and I'm looking and I did not miss anybody. Where before it was kind of it was a hunt situation. Now I can clear that. And so it's pretty cool, but nothing works with Rumble. The stream elements, the ding, the contribution thing. Is that way too loud? I'm curious if you guys think that's unusually loud as compared to all the other volumes. And it's nice to have that. It's nice to have a little chat over on the side. Nobody's chatted for a while, so it disappears after a bit. So those things are nice, but when you say, why don't you switch to Rumble? It's those things and some other things that, I didn't hear anything. Interesting. Maybe when I was trying to check it out, maybe I accidentally turned off the sound. It's and apparently it was there last week. Very interesting. Dan, didn't hear anything. Sam Peg, didn't hear anything. All right, well, maybe that's the cure for it. I don't know. I couldn't find anything that I could adjust the volume, but maybe I accidentally turned it right off. I don't know. Yeah, I don't the sound that does put out. I don't get anything that I can't put it through the mixer deck or there's no place I can access it. All right, so do we have any questions today or anything that we've talked about or anything different you want to talk about? we got a little bit of time here. If there is something, give me a shout. If not, then we'll wrap up early. As always, I give it a little bit of time here because there's delays. I think there's a built-in 10 or 15-second delay from when I do something and you get to see it. So we'll say last call for any questions or any comments or whatever. Any volunteers to come and help me put things away? All right. Well, maybe we'll, any word on what happened to Luz's finca? She came over to help me last week. I hadn't seen her in quite a while, and I was going to ask her that, but I mean, it's hers. It's there. She's not doing anything with it. I honestly doubt that anything further has been done with it. I think she would have mentioned it, but I will ask her if she's done anything with it. She was just casually thinking about, maybe renting it to somebody, but I don't know if you're not familiar with Colombia, to put yourself out in the country like that, in a pretty rustic place, you'd be spending a lot of time just kind of upgrading. I mean, it's a little house, 2-bedroom house, but it's really run down. And right now, there's a person that's living there as a free caretaker of the property. So he keeps an eye on the property, and he gets to live in this old house. And it just kind of takes the burden off her that somebody's going to come and do something bad. She did have a farmer that was leasing to grow some, what was it? God, I don't remember, yucca, I think. But that expired, and so I'm not doing anything with it as far as I know. Is it safe to travel from Armenia to the north of Pareda? And if so, would you take a bus or Uber? Okay, there is no Uber here. Doesn't exist, and it's illegal. What you will have is people here with their own cars will use the Uber-like app that has no way to actually track who it is. If the police pull you over, they won't do anything with you. They'll put you out of the car and they'll confiscate his car. Taxis are really upset about it. Now, having said that, I would take a bus. Buses are a great way to travel here. And the bus from Armenia to Pareda is very comfortable. I don't know exactly where you mean the north of Pareda, but go to the terminal and then you could take a taxi from the terminal in Pareda to specifically wherever you want to go. It's relatively inexpensive, I think, to Pareda. It's maybe 8,000 pesos, so a couple dollars. Taxi to the terminal, depending on where you are, that might be a couple dollars, and then a couple dollars on the other end. So maybe for $6 you can go from door to door, taxi, bus, and taxi. So it's not expensive. It's certainly safe. I mean, there's nothing unsafe about around here. I hesitate to say those things because the things will happen. I mean, what's the safest place you can think of in the United States, assuming you're from the United States? Whatever that is, maybe there hasn't been any kind of crime known to man for the last 5 decades. It doesn't mean that something might happen. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility that somebody might do something and commit a crime. But, the chances of that are, it's just like well, there hadn't been anything in 50 years. There probably won't be anything for another few years, you know. Uh, it's like that here. I mean, what crime would happen? The buses, there aren't people pulling buses over and pulling them off, which was happening in Ecuador. You know, another little hidden secret. Uh, those things don't happen here in the coffee region. I just came from Pereira to Manizales, very good on the bus. Yeah, I mean, it's perfectly fine. So if you want to go from Armenia to Pereira, that's how you do it. It'll take you, oh, maybe an hour, maybe a little less. Taxi, bus, then taxi on the other end. Is you know, you look at it and you say it's what, 18 kilometers away. So what is that? That's maybe 10 miles. I don't know, something like that. Why would it take an hour to go 10 miles? Because you're in the Andes and that's how things go. I will say that the road uh, from Armenia to just before you get to Pereira is a big, wide, modern 4-lane, gorgeous highway, flowers down the middle. And then as you get close to Pereira, it kind of gets more compact. You're going to run into some small little pueblos, little villages, and you know, it turns into a 2-lane highway. And depending on what time of day, you can run into traffic like that. So 11 miles. There you go. That was pretty good guess. Yeah, when I drive it, it's like, well, what's the speed limit? Yeah, 30, 25, 30 miles an hour. So you have that also. Um, and it tends to be windy, but it's not windy like in Ecuador. You get those windy roads. I mean, you're slammed from one side of the bus to the other side, and you get seasick. And going to Manizales, part of it's like that. But from Armenia to Pereira, none of it's like that. Even when there's a sharp turn, it's spread over enough distance where it's nothing. So yeah, if you're in the coffee region, I just use common sense. Uh, don't go to places that you have no business going to. And when I say that, you have no business going to places where there's nothing there. Then why go? Just don't go. Stay in places that have restaurants that you might want to visit, or maybe it's got a mall, or it's got some stores, or you know, things like that. Um, sometimes sometimes you can run into a pickpocket, I guess, if you're down in Central. Although I haven't even heard of that in a long time, but I won't say that there aren't any. There's pickpockets everywhere. Um, go to one of those traveling circuses in the United States, or fairs, or what were they called? Traveling circuses. They're nothing but pickpockets, and they're very often the guys that are running the rides and things. Armenia to Pereira is super safe. Yeah, I just can't even imagine what would happen that would not be safe. It's about as eventful as I can picture. Yeah, you just use common sense. Don't people say, well, don't use your cell phone. I use my cell phone all the time. I don't wave it around. Of course, I downsized. I used to get all the best. Well, I've got a Samsung, but it's an M something and brand new. Brand new, they sell for like a couple $100. One of the things you can do is actually get yourself like an S9 or an S10 Samsung and buy it used over Mercado Libre. And so you're paying pennies on the dollar, and you get a phone with all kinds of features and speed and great camera. And it costs you maybe $150. But yeah, just don't wave around big wads of cash. There's no reason for that. As a matter of fact, just out of habit, I don't carry more than I think I'm going to use. And, bring my debit card along or something. But it's not because I'm fearing crime. It's just like, do I need a wad of pesos in my pocket? I mean, maybe I'll reach in and drop them on the ground or something. It just doesn't make sense to go out with more than you need. For what purpose? Yeah, just use common sense. One says, "No dar papaya." Yeah, don't give papaya. Don't be an idiot. uh, Not even a possibility of mudslides. No, not on that road. No. Thank you for all your advice. I will be coming in 1 month. Awesome. Say hello. Do you still have contact with Dr. Luz for your health issues? Of course. As a matter of fact, when I completely finish this move, I have to get a hold of her. I've had an ongoing medical thing that I really, outside of getting sick, I really haven't told you guys about, and I won't. But there's some new medicine out of the U.S., and she wants to run blood tests and different things to make sure that I'm compatible with it. And if so, she's gonna put me on this new medicine, and maybe I'll get some of my energy back. I survive. I'll tell you this: I survive on a metabolism of 0, and there's not a lot that can be done about it. But she's saying with this new medicine, it's very possible that I can go back to normal. That would be awesome. Just going to do something takes a lot of effort. I have to psych myself up. Sometimes I have to take a couple days to psych myself up, to force myself to go do something in particular. And things like this move, it just knocks the crap out of me. Anyway, not here to whine about that. That's just the downside of getting old. The upside is you get to live in a place like this in retirement and do the things that you want to do. You have your hobbies and all of that. It's so I'm actually not crying about the downside. Jerry, saw Dr. Luz while I was there on vacation. She saw me in the day I asked to see her in her office, and everything went smooth. Yeah, she's awesome, and she knows her stuff. I'm very happy with her. So I shouldn't mention too much about Jerry. He's very upset that I'm living here and he's not. Yeah, it happens to a lot of people. They come here and they spend some time and they just see the possibilities. They want to jump right into that life, but they got to go back. You got to go to work, got to go back, get into the grind again. And it's like, it'll bring a grown man to tears sometimes. Well, what do you, what, what? It's not my fault. I've heard that Mexico is having trouble getting some prescription medication. Any trouble in Colombia? Not that I'm aware of. I haven't heard anything about it. Colombia makes most of the stuff they make on their own. You can get brand names from the United States. Whatever is in the US, whatever that brand name is, you can get here. But Colombia makes their own generics, and they're as good as anywhere. Colombia's always had this thing about being self-sufficient, and I really like that. I really appreciate it. Gives you a little, as you watch the world go crazy, it gives you a little sense of security knowing that if the whole world shuts down again, that in Colombia, we're going to have food, we're going to have medicine, we're going to have lights and water and all of those things, because we're self-sufficient in all of those things. So that's pretty cool. All right, we run almost the hour. Last call for a question, and then we're gonna wrap it up for today. So unlike America, where we're dependent on almost everything. Yeah, it didn't used to be that way. Didn't used to be. HD chillin', thank you very much. Much appreciated. I use insulin. Oh yeah, my insulin is $700 a month without insurance in the US. It's $25 in Colombia. And it was actually the exact same brand. Lauren and Dr. Luz tracked that info down for me. Yeah, all I did was he gave me the name of what it was, and I went to the app for the pharmacies. I've got an app that has restaurants and supermarkets and pharmacies and pet stores and all kinds of stuff. And so I put the name in, and it popped up at several different pharmacies with pricing and like that. And Dr. Luz did the same thing, and so I thought it was kind of interesting. It's some kind of different. It's not like a needle. It's like some injection thing that's like a lot easier and simpler to do if you need shots of insulin. And there's a real ease to it, but the brand in the United States was at $700 per month, and the very same brand in the US or in Colombia, made wherever it's made for in the US, it's a very same thing. It's $25 here in Colombia. How's that make you feel? Is anybody taking advantage of you back there, do you think? Because they could sell it here for $25 and make a profit. It's an insulin pen is what they call it. $700 a month for a necessary medication like insulin is crazy. Well, it's not here. What's the app's name? It's Rappi. I use the Rappi app for everything. As a matter of fact, let's say I'm sick and I don't have any cash and I need cash for something, and I just don't feel good. I don't feel like going out. I can have Rappi that go to an ATM and withdraw and bring it to me. So that's pretty cool. Okay, we're going to end it here. I want to thank you. I appreciate everybody that's hung in there. Got a lot of people still online. I just don't have much more to talk about. I come with about a half an hour's worth of topics today. It ran right about a half an hour, and then I leave open for the second half for about a half an hour of any kind of questions people want to know about what's here, and anything that I know about, I will answer. If I don't know, I usually look it up and then respond to it next week, unless I forget. So I appreciate all you that have been watching. I appreciate the contributors. You guys are awesome. In a lot of ways, for me, you guys are lifesavers, because one of the dangers when you retire is if you just stop doing things. And this is my hobby. This is my, I spent my life being a workaholic, and I'm not a workaholic anymore, but I still have to have things going on. That's what this is. This is what keeps me going. It's what keeps me alive, probably. And so you say thanks for the information like that, but understand that it's very meaningful for me also. I would hate to lose the ability to do this. Anyway, see you next week.